Welcome, everybody. My name is Andrew David Courtney, and this is the Doubling Game podcast where we aim to double your income, double your free time, and double your fulfillment. And today we've got Kelby Williams in the building, or not necessarily in the building, in the podcast. And I'd love to kind of share with you some of Kelby's story. I met him at a local networking event by the name of Key Business Network, and he was very impressive. He knows his stuff, and he's got a lot to share. So I thought I'd bring him along to this podcast and pick his brain a little bit and hopefully add tremendous amount of value to you and your lives. So welcome, Kelby. How you doing, mate?
Andrew, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you very much. And I'm not sure I can actually live up to that intro. That was incredible.
Thanks, mate.
It was a lost train of thought there for a second.
So
I appreciate the chance to have a chat to your audience, really, and to say, hey, here's some of the things you can do to make a couple of small changes, a little tweak here, a little tweak there, and get an end result which makes a fundamental shift in your business and in your life. Okay, sounds a bit esoteric, a bit Tony Robbins, but we've done it with some of our clients. We're doing it now with our clients, and we're going to do it again with our clients next week. So hang in there. We'll have a chat, and we'll see if maybe I can give you something which will just make that little change to your business, which counts for a lot.
Fantastic. It's those little 1%ers, right? And like you mentioned really prior to this podcast, it's tapping into that power of compounding. So, and that's really, really powerful. But before we sort of get into the nitty gritty, mate, I'd love to kind of learn more about your history. Obviously, you shared a little bit during our quick chat during that networking meeting. I'd love for you to share to the audience. What's your origin story?
Okay. Wow. Way back in the day when we wrote memos with chisel on stone, I started off, probably not quite that long ago, but yeah, I started off in banking back in 1990 actually, and then in 91 shifted across into business banking, where we set up a whole lot of decentralised business banking centres around New South Wales. Worked in the north coast of New South Wales for a few years doing that. Ended up having a fairly significant hospitality portfolio centred around pubs and caravan parks and motels, which was exciting. Got to meet and rub shoulders with and learn from some pretty awesome businessmen and women who, they weren't your suit and collar and tie types. They were get in there, make it happen, but they weren't in it up to their elbows. They were in it up to their wrists. They were just sitting back. Like they were still in the game, but they had people who were driving the vision. And I learned a lot from that back in the day, which is a phrase I hate, but it's just true, like way back then. And to see some of the deals I did for them pay off now with multi-million dollar sales of assets that we were able to leverage them into is really satisfying to see that they've kept on going. They've made some serious money. They've been able to retire very, very comfortably because we gave them a hand and learnt from them. That's been great. Anyway, after that, I moved into some electronic banking work through northern New South Wales and Queensland. Got out of that in the very late 90s, moved across to another bank, worked in agribusiness for about 6 years, turned a very struggling little branch into the branch of the year, which was, again, very satisfying, but not really my fault. It was just a case of having good clients, helping them, learning from them, and taking those lessons and applying them to other clients where we could, and then watching them succeed and riding that wave. Got out of that, went and actually bought and built my own little bank, sold that 6 years later. And again, same story, just helping clients build from where they were to where they wanted to go. Took a sea change, actually ran a coffee van for 2 years, or about 3 years actually, just to get a break, get out of money. Went back into commercial finance with a broking firm here in Brisbane. Worked with them for another probably 4 years, I guess, 4 or 5 years. Helped build up their medical brand and a few other bits and pieces. That was, again, interesting. Met a lot of very interesting people, learnt from them. And then took everything that I've been doing in the previous sort of 15, 20 odd years, took that into our own shingle and said, look, instead of giving away all this knowledge for free, we're going to start basically charging for it. And as any decent sort of commercial banker who's learnt from the people they work with, you know, you can take all that knowledge and apply it and get a decent reward, which is all about having the lifestyle that we want, which is where we're at. And so now we trade under our own name, just taking all that stuff we learnt from all the smart people we help fund and putting that into practice with people who are just starting their journey or are a way along it, and they've hit a point where they're going, look, I don't know what to do now. I'll keep doing what I'm doing, but that means I'll just get the same result. And that's not the point of the exercise. Okay, and we take them from there, like, here's where you're at. You want to get to a better place from a business point of view and get the benefits of that, but you're not quite sure which path to take or what levers to pull. That's where we come in and go, okay, let's do this. We've seen this before. If we do this, this is what's going to happen. And that's kind of the journey. In the last few years, as part of that, we've been part of a government, or delivering a government program called Digital Solutions, which is the new brand for the Australian Small Business Advisory Service, and that's been fantastic. Actually, I've met so many different businesses, like things you would never think people could turn into a business. It's out there, and we've been able to help them make just little changes and big changes and see the results of that, which has been enormously satisfying. And now, actually, the timing of this podcast is fantastic, because yesterday I got an email advising us that we've been appointed to the network for the Be Connected program, so we can start delivering digital literacy to seniors, which is a nice way of giving back from what I understand, so they can get online safely, avoid being scammed and hustled, and have some safe face time with the grandkids.
Brilliant.
And it's only Tuesday, so so that in a nutshell, that's where we're coming from. Commercial finance background, and very much involved in the client's business as a trusted advisor, and learning from these people, learning what to do and sometimes what not to do. In fact, I think some of the best lessons I've got from people I've worked for and with has been, look, don't do that because that doesn't work real well. Let's try another way of getting that outcome, perhaps.
Yeah, 100%. So in a nutshell, mate, you're doing business consulting. You're helping businesses get to the next level with practical insights that basically moves the needle forward.
Yeah, we do a fair bit of office tech stack, which is a really geeky sort of buzz phrase for putting in place and optimizing and automating things like your CRM, your task management systems, your sales funnels, like just the really boring stuff, the business of business, we used to call it. That's what we do. We don't do specific advertising campaigns. Like if you want advice on how to run a Facebook campaign or a Google Ads campaign, fantastic, I've got people to do that for you. But if you want help putting together the systems behind it, which drive that campaign and make sure that you can execute the leads you get and keep all that flowing, that's what we do. Okay, we're the engine room. That's what we work on. Little business mechanics.
Awesome, good stuff. And what's the name of the business, mate?
Adaptique.
Adaptique, very nice. And I noticed the logos there on your shirt as well.
Oh, little blue fox. Yes, designed by a bloke in Norway. Thank you very much.
Oh, nice.
It's because when we started to rebrand and we sat down and thought about it, we really help businesses adapt. Okay, because the world is changing quickly, tech changes quickly. You've got to be aware of and adaptable to succeed. And one of the most adaptable animals around is the fox. Like, they adapt to everything. They're fantastic. So we that's pretty cool. And then we just got the little blue fox design, and away we go.
Nice, good stuff. So I'm curious about that. I guess the small business owners out there who are trying to double their revenue, or potentially even double their profits, ideally. What would be like the main go-to move that you see that a lot of small businesses are missing?
Ooh, that's an excellent.
Yeah, obviously, it all depends on each business, right? So I'm very curious about that.
The main one they miss. Okay, there's no main one. Okay, let's just put that aside for a second.
Yep.
And everybody misses bits and pieces on the way through. The number one of all the minority pieces, the biggest minority piece would be people don't get their pricing right. Okay, and that's sometimes through fear. They're afraid to put their price up or to put their price down because they don't know what the impact's going to be, or ignorance, to pardon the word, but they just don't know where they sit in the market. They really don't know how their customers and potential customers perceive them. And the third one is that their price is simply not aligned to their brand, where they project the image of, for example, a high ticket, high quality service or product, which is what they deliver, and that's why they're seen that way, but they charge a Woolworths price. And people look at it and they go, well, that doesn't make sense. There must be something wrong. We've misinterpreted the brand, that they're charging it, they're that cheap, so people don't buy from them. They could actually put their price up and make more money, or they're doing the reverse. Like they're charging David Jones prices and delivering an Aldi product. Like that's never going to work. All right? And that's where they're probably the biggest three things around pricing. The other area where people miss out, and this is across just about every business and industry I've seen in 30 years, and that is that the money's in the follow-up. Okay, people, they just don't follow up for whatever reason. Okay, fear, busy, forget, whatever. They just don't do the follow-up, or they don't do it effectively, and they lose sales. Right, people have engaged with them. There's a potential there to bring on board a new client and nurture them and have a lifetime association, and they just don't do it. Right, that's a big one. The third, and actually we'll stick on that for 1 second, I'll give you a live example of that. The business network that Andrew was talking about before, Key Business Network, I speak at a number of their breakfasts, as do a few colleagues of mine. And I also have spoken at BX breakfasts, and I've been to BNI, and I've been to Chamber of Commerce, blah, 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 because that's the nature of what we do. We're very engaged in that sort of community, some of it coming through the work we did with Digital Solutions. And I made mention the other day to somebody who runs one of those breakfasts. Said it's really funny. Like, I speak at a lot of these things, and not once has any of them followed me up and asked me to join. Now, I don't know if that's because they hate me, but they keep inviting me back to speak, so they can't hate me that much. But not one of them has said, "Hey, listen, why don't you join?" And then so this person's looked at me, she's sharp. Like, I really like the way she runs. I like it, but I love the way she runs her businesses. And she goes, well, I better fix that. And I've had emails and membership packs, and yeah, she's not going away. And I love it. That's smart business, and that's what people don't do. So the follow-up, the money's always in the follow-up. It always has been in the follow-up. It always will be in the follow-up. The third thing where people really miss out on opportunities to build their revenue is in their marketing, okay, which is a pretty broad statement, but more importantly, the persistence of their marketing, the length of their campaigns. Too many people, they try something, it doesn't work a couple of times, so they dump it. Okay, now if you're having a sale next week and it doesn't work, then okay, maybe you need to rethink how you went about it. But if you're running a long-term campaign, if you're trying to project your brand into the market to let people know who you are, what you stand for, what you deliver, and why they should do business with you, how you can solve their problems, then that's a long-term commitment. Like, you're not in business for 5 minutes, okay? So why is your marketing campaign 5 minutes? There's a rule in marketing, it's called the rule of 7. Now, somebody mentioned the other day that they thought it was now a rule of 14, and maybe, but that's really because we've got more channels to deliver. The rule of 7, in summary, says that somebody needs to touch you 7 times. You need to reach out, they need to bump into you, see you, taste you 7 times before they will engage and buy from you, on average. And the major reason for that is not that it takes you 7 attempts to convince them to do business with you. That's not the reason. It's all in the timing. Okay, I had this conversation with a client yesterday about this very thing. I said, listen, when we run this campaign, be aware that we're in this for 3 to 6 months because of the rule of 7. Okay, and it's because, and that's why, with content that I put out, I will run, where are we now? We're in just coming into February, March. In April, I'll be putting out articles that I published in December and November, because people will see them in April who didn't even know I existed in December. And people who read them in December will read them again in April and go, oh yeah, actually that's not a bad idea. We should probably do that now.
It's a good reminder, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, whereas in December, it was just not on their radar at all. It was like, oh yeah, that's interesting, we'll get around, whatever. Too busy doing other stuff, it's not important. But then I'll remind, or they'll see a different article that I wrote. They go, oh, hang on, didn't you say something about whatever about cash flow in December? Oh, let's go. And they'll try and find it, and they'll go to the website, it'll be there in our blog lists, and they'll go, awesome, reach out, and away we go. And we did that just 2 weeks ago. We had a client ring up and said, hey, listen, I saw what you did at Expressway, and that would have been going back 6 or 7 months. I've seen a couple of your articles, can you give me a hand with this part of our business? Right. Now, I met the person at Expressway for like about 3 minutes over a cup of coffee and a piece of bad cheese on an ordinary cracker. Like, seriously. That's it. But they've seen stuff, and they've gone, yes, we want to engage now because the time is right now. And that's the thing. With your marketing, you've got to be persistent. You've got to stay the course. The other side of marketing is that you've got to measure what you do. Okay, just because you're going to stay the course doesn't mean you have to tweak, and you can't tweak or change or adapt or improve the message and the way you deliver it. And that's probably the fifth thing, is that people don't measure what they're doing and track the results. Now, there's a good friend of mine from the Gold Coast, Miriam Van Houston, has a company called Maralytics, and their software is an awesome way of tracking the ROI of your marketing campaigns. Okay, if you're at all into that sort of thing, check it out, track it down, see what it can do for you. That is, your Google Analytics, your Facebook Analytics. Use coupon codes to track where people are coming from when they want to buy from you. Okay, discount codes. It's the oldest. It's not even a trick. It's just the oldest technique in the book. Okay, the old voucher. Track your vouchers coming in. Measure what you do so you know what's working and what isn't working. Now, there's a number of clients. I really hesitate to use the word coaching. Let's say we have accountability sessions once or twice a month with these people, because it's not really coaching. God. Anyway, we do these accountability sessions. We sit down and it's all about the numbers. Okay, I'm a numbers guy. It's about, what did we say we were going to do last month? What did we do this month? Are we over or under on revenue? Are we over or under on expenses? And why? If it was our fault that we're over on revenue, cool, let's do that again. If we're over because something unexpected happened, well, that's nice, bank the money, but don't count on that. Let's stay the course. If our expenses are over because of something we did, well, it's pretty stupid, let's not do that again. If the expenses are over because of something we don't control, okay, we don't control it. There's nothing you can do about it. Move on, stay the course. All right, we don't need to tweak stuff. Okay, we just keep doing what we're doing. If it's stuff you can't, and that's the thing in business, never sweat the small stuff. One. Number two, it's all small stuff. And number three, if you don't control it, don't worry about it. If you literally if you can't predict it and control it, don't sweat it. All right, focus on what you control, focus on what you can predict, work on those and make that happen. All right? And that's, avoid the distractions, stay the course.
100%. Well, there's a lot of golden nuggets there, mate. Thanks for sharing all of those things. And look, there's a lot of struggling business owners out there who are really wondering how the hell to get a move on, and ultimately you've packaged up some projects that they can sink their teeth into to actually move the needle forward. Yeah. Because if done correctly, obviously you've exited multiple times with your business. Done correctly, you could exit at a fairly sizable multiple, and basically build up on that skill stack that you've built up along the way, and actually create something quite substantial for yourself within your portfolio, and to make that, I guess, that shift in your life where you're chasing after making a change, making a difference within the context of your life. So tell me, mate, what makes you tick? Why have you gone through where you're going now, and why are you doing what you're doing?
That's a very good question, and I can't actually come up with an answer for that just before Christmas. Okay, we're not going to talk about Christmas because it was the worst Christmas ever. There's a lot of stuff going on. Let's just forget that. But before Christmas, we're sitting down and we're looking at where we were taking the business and the opportunity to become part of the Be Connected network, and what I did, and I realised, and it was just one of those it's a tiny little light bulb moment when I realised why I do what I do. Okay, I look back and I just had a moment to reflect in that little sort of, we're shutting the office for a week or two and no one's descended for Christmas yet. We've just got a little breathing space in the middle. And I thought, a lot of years in business banking, I was basically giving away what I knew for free. Okay, because I spent a lot of time coaching and helping clients build their businesses. It wasn't just walking in, how much money do you need, run the numbers, it's approved or it isn't. It was a case of, where you're at, what are we doing? Okay, let's work on making this better, because if you make it better, my facilities get paid back and I look at the start. Super, everybody wins. And so I looked at all that knowledge, and that was really the reason that we went from broking to Adaptique, because I got sick and I really got bored with giving away the money, giving away the knowledge for nothing. It was just got to the point of saying, this is ridiculous. Okay, there was a reason that I sold out of finance and got in and took the coffee van for a couple of years. It was because I was just sick of dealing with banks and finance companies and all their people and their bureaucracy and some of their blind stupidity. And then I went back into it, which, there was reasons, but got out of it. So that's it. Like, really, I've got the opportunity to get out and leverage myself out. I can actually do what I like doing, which is delivering that knowledge and helping people build their businesses. And what I realized is that I actually enjoy teaching. Is that fundamentally, that's what I do, is I sit down with people and I teach them how to make their business better. how to take on board the lessons that I've learned over the last 30 years and apply them, the ones that are applicable, apply them to their business. Okay, I mean, if you look at one of the great lessons I learned really early on was from, I sincerely hope they don't mind getting name dropped here, but it was from clients of mine who had a hotel consortium, if you like, on the North Coast. Okay, now they recently sold one part of it for multi-millions. I put them into that for about $1 million in about 92 or 93. At the time, it was a massive deal. We even had one of the guys from Sydney, one of the head guys from Sydney, fly up to have run his eye over it. Got done, great clients. And what I learned from them, like they were good people, but they were tough, as in business is business, right? The numbers rule. And what I learned from them, particularly from her, was that you have a team that runs the business. Okay, now they had at the time 1, 2, 3 owned outright or 50% share in 4 pubs, another 2 bottle shops, and some little passive investments. Okay, now that for a couple where they're the primary management force, that's a handful on your plate. But what they had was they had systems and procedures for delivering awesome food and drink and entertainment to their clients, and they had a team of staff who operated those systems and procedures to deliver their awesome food and beverage and entertainment to their clients, and they ran the team. They had the team set up so they were only really running 5 or 6 people, but every day they're on site somewhere, just keeping an eye on it, finger on the pulse. But they didn't necessarily deal at the coalface. They dealt one step back and let that person do their job, which helped the staff do their job, which gave them happy customers who came back the next day and spent more money and drank more beer and ate more food and had more fun. And I remember watching that thinking, oh, that's pretty clever. Well, if you do it right, it's pretty clever. But what it is, that is a business, because that's what a business is. And I've got so many of my clients where they go, oh, I'd love to have a team. Exactly, that's the whole point. I'm glad you said that. Huh? What's that? Because that's what a business is. Like they've got an awesome solution to a client's problem. Fantastic. What we've got to have is some systems and procedures documented. Thank you very much. I'll get into that in a sec. Documented so that you can then build a team that basically follow the book and deliver your awesome solution to your clients. You then run the team, and you know what you've got then? You've actually got a little bit of breathing space. Suddenly, you've doubled your free time. Now, maybe you didn't have much at the start, so doubling it means you've just got 2 lots of not very much, but you've got more free time. And if you do that right, you've got 2 benefits. One is you're going to be making more money. Okay, if we sit down and work it through, if we do it right, you'll be making more money. Like just sit down with me, listen, learn, and do what I tell you to do, basically. All right. The second thing is that you've then got something you can duplicate, because business is all about duplication. So if you do it once, you can do it twice. Or you can build a bigger team, okay? And suddenly
you get more free time, even. Again.
Hello, Andrew. You're catching on. That's how, and that's see. If you're like a guy, like almost a neighbour of mine, round the corner, down the road. Okay, he's got a Jibs lawn mowing franchise. Okay, good luck to him, and he's doing okay. But if he hurts his ankle and can't walk, he earns no money. He is essentially a technician. He's really got a job with more risk. Okay, now I like the guy. He's a smart guy. And we had a chat about it. He goes, look, for him, financially he's okay. It makes good money. If he can't work, he just puts his feet up. He hasn't got any income protection insurance because he figures it's too hard to claim on. It's not worth the money. Okay, he's cool. But, he does what he does. But really, he doesn't have a business. What he has is a job with more risk. Whereas across the road from me, some new clients, he's got a serious business. Okay, they deal in blinds and curtains and stuff, and he's got the systems, he's got the team, and they're doing very nicely. And he has free time, because if you can't take a holiday from your business and still get paid, you don't have a business. That's fundamental. That's the easy measure. You think about what you're doing. Mm-hmm. If you literally if I walk out of this, okay, I still get paid because I've got other things happening. So I've got a business. Okay, I can go on holidays. We've still got some money rolling in, no dramas. But previously, when I was working with a broker, working for them, even though I was under contract, if I didn't do anything, like if I went on holidays, which we did, I don't make any money. So even though I was under contract, I didn't really have a business. I was self-employed. Okay, and that's the difference. So we work on people saying, hey, let's move from self-employed to having a business, which is actually a course we're writing right now to run. So it sits alongside our Double Your Profits, which I run with another colleague of mine. From that, we flow into, okay, you've doubled your profits. Now let's go from being a very profitable self-employed person to having an actual business where you have freedom and control and a life.
100%. Yeah, look, it's an interesting journey that you've been through, because obviously, I mean, to get finance, you have to understand the numbers, and a lot of small business owners really kind of
No.
they don't really look at their numbers, unfortunately, and there's merit in understanding those numbers, because if you can get a loan from the bank as a business owner, a commercial loan, that means that you've got a robust enough business to lend against, because banks obviously have systems and processes to have enough scrutiny to ensure that you can actually pay that back. So that's an interesting thing that I've never actually thought about. To get a commercial loan as a business owner, the banks would have to put you through a bit of a ringer to make sure that you've got a robust business behind you, because not everyone's going to be able to pull out some cash to reinvest back into the business, right? So that's really cool, and that brings back like a particular topic that I want to kind of pick your brain about is enterprise value, right? Because obviously, to be able to lend against something, you need to have enterprise value. And what is enterprise value? And it's about building these systems out, like similar to what you're talking about. If you can do all of those things and actually create a business for yourself, in an ideal world, you want to build it to potentially sell in the future. You don't necessarily need to sell it, but being able to sell it as an option is a totally different ballgame, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's one thing. I'm glad you raised that. It's one thing with every business that I deal with. I'll say, what's your exit strategy? And I get a couple of blank looks where people go, oh, I was going to sell. Awesome. So you've got everything documented, all your systems and procedures. No. Awesome. That's our project then. When you have a spare minute, you suddenly don't have a spare minute because we're documenting your systems and procedures so that when you want to sell, it's turnkey. Somebody can walk in and they know exactly what they have to do. If you're bringing on new staff, they pick up the manual and they know what they've got to do. You've only got to train them once or twice. You don't have to train them every week. Right? That's how you get that enterprise value, where you've got something that somebody else can run. Suddenly you've got a business of value. And you're right about the banks. Even the tier 2 and tier 3 lenders, and your commercial payday lenders like the Prospers and those sort of guys, okay, where they're simply lending virtually off bank statements. They're still looking for evidence of sustainable revenue. Right? They want to make sure you've got cash flow. And something I teach all my clients is that no matter what accounting system you're using, you will reconcile that. You will download your bank statement. If you're using cloud-based, download your bank statements and reconcile once a week, preferably first thing Monday morning. Look, Mondays are horrible. Let's start off with doing some accounting first up. Suddenly the rest of Monday looks great. Okay, but if you do that, okay, now things like Xero and Mob and QuickBooks and SaaSU and Zoho and Sage and all those guys who do that online cloud-based accounting, once you teach the accounting system what transactions go where, reconciliation will take you about 5 minutes, and then you have a set of numbers you can rely on. Because I've got a lot of respect for gut instinct, but the numbers tell the story. Yes. Okay. So you've got to be able to pick up, you've got to be able to go to Xero and look at a profit and loss and say, yeah, the numbers are accurate. I can rely on that. That's how much money I've got. When you do your cash flow projections, obviously your costs are based on historics. They've got to be accurate. And the timing has to be accurate. So you should be doing this. And when it comes to doing your BAS every quarter, your bookkeeper just goes, click, well, it's all done. It's 5 minutes work. Suddenly your bookkeeping bill goes down. Your accountancy bill goes down a bit because it's all done. It's accurate. It's up to the minute. And you can rely on it. Prime example of that, had a client in Perth, clothing retailer and wholesaler. They were using Xero. Now, with respect to Xero, inventory is not a strong suit, and I've yet to see anybody argue with that point of view. And they weren't using any sort of plug-in, so their inventory was a guess, literally a guess. So the profit and loss, well, you couldn't. There was no way it was accurate. Monthly, weekly, daily, it was just a guess. So how do we know where they're trading at, really? Okay, how do we know how much stock? Well, I asked them how much stock was sitting, and it was something like, they said, oh, we've got about X dollars at the moment. That was 3 times what they had on their inventory figure in their Xero. It's like, oh my God. So if I look at your numbers, I've got no idea. So we unwound a lot of stuff. I've got a client of mine who's a bookkeeper who dived in, did an awesome job. She's very, very good. Cost the client a few dollars, but it's now they look at their figures and they can trust them. And you're right, it's all about the numbers. You've got to be able to have financials that you understand, even just at a basic level. Understand them, understand what the business is at, and plan off that, and then just go for it. make it happen.
100%. And look, there's parallels with the PAYGs of this world as well, the employees.
Yeah.
I mean, you really need to understand where your dollars are going, because unfortunately, most of us have holes in our pockets, right? So in the end of the day, it's understanding, well, what's the baseline? What have you actually saved for the year? Because that'll give you some clues around, well, how do you optimize for a better outcome for the following year? And if you can gamify it somehow and know your numbers intimately, what happens is you can start optimizing for a better outcome, where you can start kind of teasing out, well, how do you get a higher return on investment on your time, right? And start leveraging up. Yeah,
absolutely, mate. One thing I try and teach my clients is when we do our cash flows for the year, which we try to get started in November for these guys, or start them in April for the next financial year, like get a head start, start looking into it, start planning it out, is that when you're mapping out your costs, which is where I'd like to start, don't forget to put in the wage that you would be paid if you did what you do for an employer. And a couple of them blinks and add super to that, don't forget that, because that's a cost of the business. And then we look at the revenue that we need to generate to make the bottom to break even. And then we start thinking about a return on investment. And my ballpark figure is, let's just pick 20% return on investment. So we've got to add that to it. And now we have a starting point for our target revenue.
Yeah.
All right. And it's the same if you're an employee. It's a case of, okay, it's not a case of how much money do I want to earn. It's a case of, what does it cost me to live? How much money do I want to save this year or invest, however you look at it? Great. That's the minimum I've got to earn. How do I do that? All right. You've got to work it backwards. All right, everybody starts at the top line. It's like, no. There's no point starting at the top line if you don't start at the bottom and figure out how much you've got to earn anyway. Right? Yeah. And there's actually a budgeting, it's not an accounting system, it's a budgeting system called Profit First, which is starting to gain some traction. And I don't mind, I like it as a way of budgeting for the way you should run your business. It's a good idea. We won't go into what I think. I think there's a couple of little snags with it, but it's that mindset of profit first. How much do I want to make? What's it going to cost me to make that? Great, that gives me a revenue target. Now, how are we going to do that? What marketing campaign are we going to put in place and measure and track that's going to deliver that outcome for us? How are we going to do it?
100%.
Okay, what's our pricing? What's our product mix? What team do we need? All that stuff, all that boring business of business stuff. Let's work it out. Because once you got that right, then we start looking at how we're going to double your profits. Okay, we little tweaks to customer numbers, little tweaks to pricing, little tweaks to costs. Okay, and suddenly your profit goes through the roof, which is kind of where we want it to go.
100%. I mean, I think one of the key things that I always tell people is you have to ask the beautiful question of how. Far too many people ignore that question, and really, if you can consistently ask how you can optimize for a better outcome across the board, right? And hold yourself accountable to that, and work with people like yourselves to sort of get you to the next level. It's amazing what you can achieve over a 1 to 5 year period kind of thing, so it's really, really powerful. Now, question for you, mate. Obviously your business is the highest leveraged kind of asset class to invest into, and it's highest risk as well, right? A lot of small business owners tend to kind of fall flat because they don't particularly have the right resources nor the right people to sort of help them, guide them through the next steps. But in terms of a portfolio, what does your portfolio look like? Obviously, you're heavy into business, right? What does point B look like for you, and how does your portfolio look like to go from where you are today to get to point B?
When you say point B, you're talking about retiring,
or like the ideal outcome. It's not necessarily retirement. It's more what does freedom look like to you?
Well, and this I hope this doesn't sound glib and a bit of a throwaway line, but we're actually in that position almost now. Like we work, like my calendar doesn't have a lot of white space in it. It's got enough for me to be happy, where I can book people in, I can take on board new clients, and I've got existing projects falling off. So we've got that natural transition, which is one of the ways we've structured our business. So we have some long-term clients and we have some short-term 2, 3, 4 month project clients. We rotate that around, which is nice. I've got variety, we've got good cash flow, and we work with particularly a lot of little micros. And because the impact that I can make and that we do here, the influence on their business is personally very satisfying. Okay, like we've got one client in particular where we jumped her revenue 60% over a 3-month period, and that's been sustained. We looked at her figures in January. Beginning of this month it was. And her figures for the 12 months are up 58% on the previous year. That's not only year. That's month on month on month, right, consistently. Right, we jumped them 60% in about May, and since May, that's held at about somewhere between 60 and 55 every month. And that's just a few small tweaks. It's enabled her to get out of some rented premises, or a number of shared premises, into her own office space, which she now controls. It's a better location. She's still making more money. Actually, by doing that, we've dropped her costs as well. That was one of our big targets for the year. Nailed that 3 months early. That was fantastic. It's just those little things, and that's why we look at where we're at and going, hey, this is kind of the business we wanted, where we've got some big ticket clients. So the cash flow's sound, but we also have time and energy for our micros, where we can make real impact and not just throw them in ways that they otherwise would not have access to. So for us, we're at point A and B right now, to be honest.
Amazing.
Nice blend of industries, nice blend of sizes. There's challenge every day. It's just a really nice mix.
And are you also investing some of your profit as well, like whether it be share market, property market?
Mate, the first rule we had when we first went into business under our own shingle in 2006, and the first thing we did every month, okay, when we got paid, we took out basically 20% of that gross invoice and put it in our GST and super account. And then once a quarter, obviously we'd pay GST, whatever was left over, we invested through our superannuation fund.
Nice.
And we've done that since 2006. Okay, so, and somebody said, that's a bit over the top. I said, mate, you got to be kidding me. It was 10% back when, I think the super guarantee back then was about 9. And we could quite have legally have simply done 9 out of net profit. But we took 10 straight off the top. So, well, okay, we're over investing. But the thing is that that's our target. That's what we do. That's the aim of our business, to be able to take 10% off revenue and invest it.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, and then after that, we take out our operating expenses and our wages and all that. All that other stuff comes out after we've done that. And we've done that, for the last, 16, 17 years. Right? So yeah, that's what we do. And to be honest, mate, when it comes to investing, I'm lazy as just lazy as, mate, really. We've got our super fund's got a nice blend. It's earning over 10%. It's averaged over 10% for the last 17 years. I'm happy. Okay, lazy. Don't have to worry about it. It's well managed. It does what it does, and that frees up my time to focus on sitting down with small business and micros and say, hey guys, where do you want to go?
Do what you do best.
Let's map out a plan for getting there. And that's the whole point. When I was doing a lot of stuff with digital solutions, one of the workshops I ran on was getting started in business, like the mindset, the challenges. And I said, one thing that you get when you start in business, and I face that, and everybody else I know in business has faced that, is that it's you. Right? You've got to be the jack of all trades. I said, but the thing you need to do right at the very start is say, okay, this is my superpower. This is what I bring to the table in the business. It might not necessarily be designing the product or whatever, but this is my superpower. You outsource everything else. That's the plan. Whether you outsource by employees, by subcontractors, by specialists like your lawyer, your accountant, whatever, your plan is to outsource all that stuff. And that's what we do here. Like that's what I do. Everything else I outsource. Okay, I don't do legal work, but I do have some excellent lawyers on tap. I don't do accounting work, but I've got some excellent accountants on tap. When it comes to grant writing, yeah, I can do it, but man, I've got a really cool grant writer who's speed dial. Okay, so we outsource everything that's not our superpower, and that's what you should be aiming for in business.
Absolutely, and really, it's finding the highest and best use of your time as well, right? Like it's just you don't even have to be a business owner. If you could sort of understand that particular lesson, what happens is, if you're earning a big salary, let's hypothetically say over $250K as an employee, it doesn't particularly make sense to do the shitty little jobs that you don't really love to do. Like if you hate doing something, why the hell are you spending time on it? Delegate it out.
It's all about balance in life. It's like, if you're earning 50 grand a year, then you're probably going to have to wash your own car and do your own laundry and all that stuff. If you're earning 250 a year, like you've paid the price to have the luxury to have somebody else wash your car and maybe to use a laundry service. Okay, you've earned that through blood, sweat, and tears. So why not invest those earnings in a bit of spare time for yourself and a bit of lifestyle? Okay, it's about having a plan, right? Not playing it by ear every day of the week. I mean, playing by ear can be fun, right? When you're on holidays, that can get actually really exciting at times. But in your day-to-day life, it's like, if you're earning a solid income, you've earned the right to have some spare time. Same in business. I've got business owners. Let me think. I had 4 of them when I had the coffee van in industrial estates. 4 of them every Tuesday. These guys would have a car detailing person turn up and do the company fleet, like their own personal cars. And I remember delivering coffee one day, and I said, "This is cool." I said, "Mate, like, we work serious hours, and we could do that at home on the weekend, but then we'd miss out on family time. And quite frankly, these guys do a better job, and we've got the money. Like, we've earned this." And it's just one of those little lessons you learn from your clients on the way through. It's like, yeah, you're right. It's all about return on investment. For them, the time and energy they've invested in their business is better returned to them in personal time with their family than running a sponge over the family BMW. Like, bugger that for a joke. They'd rather be with the kids, so they are. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's all about having a plan, and then working out, and not being afraid to bring people in. And here's one of the mistakes that I've made, and I'll see a lot of people in business make, is that you're too afraid to bring people in to help because you don't want for them to see how bad you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had a very similar conversation of this with a client on Monday morning over coffee. Great. Very, very good at what she does, and a great person to boot. It's a terrible combination, all right? She's just awesome. And we're talking about accountability, and she said, she's part of like a peer-to-peer accountability group, and she says, "I get a bit twitchy sharing the numbers. It's a bit embarrassing." So that's really funny because I look at where you're at and where you've been and what you've achieved in a short period of time. I think that's pretty impressive. So don't be afraid to share. Okay, nobody's going to judge you. Like they don't. It's like your accountant doesn't hate you; they want to help you. If your numbers look rubbish, then they'll have a chat about it and try and help you. If they're a good accountant, if they're not, if they don't do that, get a new accountant or give me a call. Seriously. If you're speaking if you're part of those networking groups and they're asking you how you're going, and you actually have the courage to bring them on board and ask for a hand, they'll help you. Well, that's why they exist. Don't be afraid to bring people into what you do. All right, it's not a state secret. Okay.
Yeah. One key theme that that keeps popping up for me is ultimately we've only got a limited number of resources in our lives and obviously a limited number of time as well. So what you need to do is really kind of make sure you allocate those resources accordingly and have like you said, have a plan of attack. So you've got a right sequence of events so you can optimize for the best output within a allotted time frame that you're happy with. Right? And far too many people dilly-dally around and just waste too much time because I tell you what, February's just coming around the corner and it's just the month of January has gone so quickly, right? Yeah. And if you're not moving, if you don't know where you're heading towards, it's very, very difficult and you lose that valuable resource,
I'm about 3/4 of the way through a series of articles on planning for 2023 and because of Christmas I got a little bit delayed with some of the publishing. And somebody said, when did you start? I said, mate, I started in November. Because if I didn't start in November, I wouldn't have been ready to go in January. Because in January, half the country goes to sleep.
Mm.
And that's the best time to get your plans together and get on with stuff is when everybody else is dozing and your competitors aren't switched on. Right? So it's like planning for the next financial year. That's April, May at the latest. Okay, you should be into it in May, starting to work out what your July to June is going to look like next year and what you want to do and how it's going to plan out and everything. All right, start then. Okay, it's that whole, you've got limited resources, leverage them, make the most of it.
Yeah, without a doubt. That's awesome, mate. Well, thanks very much for your time. Much appreciated.
Okay.
It's been awesome to hear all of the nuggets that you've shared with us today. A lot of aspiring entrepreneurs in the audience, I'm sure, and along with other small business owners who want to take it to the next level. So thank you very much for sharing your wisdom there, mate. Question for you: where do we best find you? Where does the audience find you?
Okay, if you want to reach out, the website is obviously www.adaptique.com.au. And Adaptique is ADAPTIQUE. Just hit that up. There's a contact form there. Put some details in, and we'll come straight back to you. Other than that, tap into places like KBN and BX. You'll often find me popping up there giving a speech. Or actually,
Brilliant.
I usually just get everybody else to do the talking, quite frankly, because everybody else is more interesting than me. And that's the easiest way to do it. But yeah, the website's the best spot. Jump onto there. You'll find me on LinkedIn and Facebook as well. Just type my name in and I'll come up. Pretty simples, and we can go from there. Happy to help. And again,
Brilliant.
Andrew, thank you for the privilege of this. It's been great to share. Hopefully, I've added some value for your listeners. Just to think about where you're at, planning out where you're going, because little changes compound. Just make a little change here, a little change there, and you will end up doubling your revenue, you will end up doubling your profits, and you will end up doubling your time. And that's the name of the game. Right? Buy back your time, have a life.
100%. Brilliant. All right, much appreciated, man. I'll see you next time. We'll chat soon. All the best. See ya.